Greetings and welcome to our Unity of Tustin Wednesday evening Conscious Conversations service. I'm Reverend Clive deLaporte, and I'm blessed to welcome and thank you for blessing us this evening with your presence and participation. This evening we have a special service prepared for you. I'm so happy to share that our guest this evening is Reverend Paulette Pipe. Reverend Paulette is the originator and facilitator of the ministry Touching the Stillness, which can be found at touchingthestillness.org. And Reverend Paulette is here this evening to join us in conscious conversation about prayer and meditation and the power of being in the silence and in the stillness of the oneness with God. We begin by lighting our candle, our power candle for the month, and that power candle is the power of will. Will is our ability and faculty and power to be able to choose, to decide, to execute divine truth and good in us and in our lives. It empowers us to be willing and willful, to be decided and determined in our discipleship of the divine Christ. As we take time each day to open our hearts to the presence and power of divine will in us, we find that our lives are more disciplined and more dedicated to the grace and good of God in all that we think and say and do. Let us join together now in an opening prayer blessing for our service this evening. Divine Father of light, Divine Mother of love, we come together in the presence and power of the Christ. We open our hearts to the will of the Christ, to our ability and power to choose and decide, to be willing and willful, to dedicate ourselves in discipleship to the divine Christ, in all that we think, all that we say, and all that we do. This evening, we claim a very special blessing for those on our August prayer request list. We ask that the divine Christ fulfill all of their needs and wants according to your divine purpose in the Christ, in us, and in our lives. Thank you, God, and so it is. Every week we are blessed with the music contribution of New Thought musicians, and we include 1 or 2 or sometimes 3 videos in music insight and inspiration. This evening our first song is by Karen Drucker, You Are the Face of God, and then directly after the song, the video, the music video, we'll go to our conscious conversation with Reverend Paulette Pipe.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God.
Tu es l'image de Dieu.
I hold you in my heart.
Tu es l'image de l'amour.
You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God.
Tu sei la luce di Dio.
I hold you in my heart.
Tu sei il volto dell'amore.
You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. The face of love. I hold you in my heart. You're in my heart. You are my family. You are my family. You are the face of love. The face of love. You are the face of love. The face of love. I hold you in my heart. You're in my heart. You are my family. You are my family. You are the face of love. The face of love. You are the face of God. The face of God. I hold you in my heart. You're in my heart. You are a part of me. A part of me. You are the face of God. The face of God. You are the face of God.
Eres la luz de Dios.
I hold you in my heart.
Eres la cara del amor.
You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. You are the face
Tu sei la luce di Dio.
You are the face
You
of
are
God.
the face of God.
You are the face
Tu
of
es
God.
l'image de Dieu.
You are the face
You
of
are the face of God.
You are the face
Tu
of
sei
God.
la luz de Dios.
You are the face
You
of God.
are the face of God.
You are the face
Tu
of God.
ruh خدایی.
You are the face
You
of God.
are the face of God.
You are the face of
Eres la luz de Dios.
You are the
This evening we are surely blessed with the presence of Reverend Paulette Pipe joining us to talk about her ministry, Touching the Stillness. That ministry can be found at touchingthestillness.org online. Reverend Paulette, thank you so much for taking time to bless us with your presence and participation in our Unity of Tustin conscious conversation this evening.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is such an honor.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but you are well known and appreciated at Unity of Tustin. When I put out the schedule for our participants in our upcoming Conscious Conversation Wednesday evening services, I received a number of emails and text messages, people, members of our church, sharing how excited they were that you were going to be joining us this evening.
Oh, that's wonderful, but no pressure.
Oh, I'm
So
sure.
it's good to be with all of you who are looking forward to being with me.
I'm sure you will handle the pressure just fine. So I'd like to start by just making some reference to your bio. For those who don't know you and aren't familiar with your ministry, you describe yourself as a meditation teacher, a radio host, retreat facilitator, obviously an ordained Unity minister and keeper of the flame. I'd like to return to that description of being keeper of the flame later on.
Okay.
Your bio, I found it very interesting. It reflects a life of somebody who has a curiosity and interest about life in the world. You've traveled. You say that when you do a workshop, one of the first icebreakers that you introduce is something called, "If you knew me, you would know."
Right.
And I hear that you too have an accent. So why don't you give us a brief outline of who you are and how you came to be doing the ministry of touching the stillness?
How long did you say we have?
In total, we have about half an hour, but take your time.
So, if you knew me, you would know that I am British born with Caribbean parents. And how did I come to be doing this ministry? Well, I came to seminary at Unity Village back in 1999, was ordained in 2001, and I went back to head the UK headquarters there. And while I was there, I was offered a job in the retreats department because I used to intern in the retreats when I was in seminary. So I applied and was offered the job. But what happened was we were naive in thinking, but because I had gone to school and had student visas and stayed on, that getting a work visa or a green card would be a slam dunk because I was in the system, right? It was just going to be, they said it was going to take 6 to 9 months. And we're like, they don't know truth. This is going to be, really quick. Well, it took 18 months. And so by the time I got to Unity Village, they really did wait for me that long. And by the time I got there, the job had changed, the situation had changed. And what I thought I was going to be doing in terms of ministry did not look like that anymore. And I was not happy. It was a really good job, but I was not happy because I was not being fulfilled in my ministry. And a couple of years into that, Unity launched Unity Online Radio. And when I heard it was being launched, I got so excited. I have no broadcast experience. I'm a journalist, trained and qualified, but not in broadcast. But I got so excited. I can do this, I can do this. And for about a year, everybody ignored me as what is that? How do you get on there? Until finally I was invited to create an outline for a show called Touching the Stillness. And I took to it like a duck to water. So what would happen is, on a Tuesday, my show would air on a Tuesday at 11 o'clock live. And I would light up like a firecracker. And I would say to people, I dare you to ask me on a Tuesday how I am. Go on, I dare you. Because I'd be like, I just did my show and we did this and we talked about that. And next week I've got this. And I would light up and then go back to my desk like, oh. So I decided after about 18 months of that I wanted that Tuesday feeling more of the time. So one Saturday morning I woke up and I was meditating. Well, I did wake up because I was meditating and this song by Janice Stanfield was going through my head. What would I do today if I were brave? And I started to fantasize about leaving my job and, excuse me, going out and doing the thing I love in the world and letting the radio be my full-time ministry and God would be my paymaster. And I got so engaged in that fantasy, even when the little bird on my shoulder was saying, but what about the mortgage? And what about the taxes? And what about the medical benefits? And it's like, because I was new to this country, I couldn't go and sleep on my sister's couch if things didn't work out. But in that moment, I was daydreaming. Well, that's what I thought. So that was a Saturday morning. And on Monday morning, I went into the office and made an appointment to see my manager. And I went in, she said she could see me at 1 o'clock. So that was the longest 5 hours. And I went in and I didn't know what I was going to say to her. I didn't have a plan. I really don't, but I went in and I resigned. And I left my job with the benefits and the salary and all that I know as security and went out to do the radio, still doing the radio for Unity Online Radio, but doing it for free because it wasn't a paid position, but doing what I love. And the rest is history. I did that for 10 years until 18 months ago when I started doing the podcast myself through Touching the Stillness. So that's it, I think.
What a wonderfully uplifting and inspiring story. Yes. And, you know, you won't know this, but I first met you, I was first introduced to you as a person and as a minister and your ministry when I was in the licensed Unity teacher program.
Okay.
So I came into the ministry program the long way. I didn't know that I wanted to be a minister. I first became a prayer chaplain and then a prayer chaplain trainer. And then I started doing SEE courses. And once I finished the SEE courses, I thought, well, I'll go and do the licensed Unity teacher program. And I was required to go to Unity Village to do the Session C, I think it was called back in those days. And you were invited in by Reverend Michael. I think it was Reverend Michael. I'm not sure if I have the name right, but you were invited. It was a class on prayer and meditation. And you were invited in for half an hour to come and talk to us about prayer and meditation. And Paulette, that must have been back in 2013, 2014, maybe before that. So here we are. Isn't life interesting how we get to sometimes circle back and reconnect with, and of course, your testimony back then and your sharing was very inspirational to me then as it is now. Well, that's a wonderful story. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to transition into this reference that you have in your bio as being the spiritual advisor and keeper of the flame to the board of trustees at Unity Worldwide Ministries. Tell us a little bit more about what that entails as part of your ministry.
I'd be happy to. So, the keeper of the flame, I hold sacred space for the board of trustees while they're in their meetings and their deliberations. So they meet, the board meets once a month or via Zoom. And so I pray them in and, hold sacred space. And if there's any polarities or they can't come to a decision, we can stop the meeting at any time and I can call for prayer and discernment. I'm a board member. I'm a full board member. I just don't have voting rights, which is great because what I'm doing is focusing on the energy that's in the room, focusing on what's not being said but being held in emotionally, and doing sort of energetic clearing, energetic work to keep the space, to keep the arena clear so that people can have their disagreements, people can have their emotional responses, but it's not energetically cluttering up the space.
Right.
So I'm holding that sacred space. And I've been on the board since 2012. And in that time, we've had very few places where they've come to disagreement in any, not argumentative, but, contentious ways. But on the occasions where they can't come to consensus and I've stopped to ask for prayer, I'll do a discernment because you've got polar opposite ends of the argument. And we'll do a discernment together and then the chair will say, okay, let's just go around the circle and ask the question again. No discussion still, just we've come out of prayer. And they'll go around the circle and come to consensus. So that's what I do. And then we meet 4 times a year in person for a week, all day and all evening. And I'm holding the space there too. And our meditations are daily, 30-minute extended daily meditations that I lead and still have the capacity to call for prayer. So I'm there available. I'm available to the chair and any of the board members if they need prayer support offline or anything like that. And then at the annual convention in the business meeting, I am the liturgist. So I hold sacred space during the meeting and can stop the proceedings at any time if we need to call for prayer again. So I work very closely with the parliamentarian for that. But there's this misguided notion, because I'm the keeper of the flame for UWM, I often get introduced as keeper of the flame for UWM and the unity movement. And I'm just, that's too heavy a burden to bear.
I was going to say, that's a big flame.
That's a big flame.
To be keeping, yes. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with me. We are we've received the blessing of a new board at Unity of Tustin this year, and we are looking for ways to be more spiritually orientated and focused in our board conversations, deliberations, and decisions, right? And we don't do that to the extent that you've described. And so when I read that in your bio, my heart was touched that we need to incorporate something like this in some form or another. And because in a typical church, the minister is such an integrated part of the board process, it might be something we invite prayer chaplains to do for us. Either just the opening prayer remotely via Zoom, because all of our meetings are now held on Zoom currently. And then they could simply, withdraw from the meeting and continue to hold sacred space, hold the light, or keep the flame while we're in conversation and decision. So that's an idea that has birthed as a result of your ministry and the work that you do. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm also Keeper of the Flame for the Evolutionary Leaders Network, which is a project of the Source of Synergy Foundation. So it's made up of evolutionary leaders. It included people like Barbara Marx Hubbard and Jean Houston, Gary Zukav, people like that. There's quite a few of us. So when we come together for meetings and so on, then I'm holding the space for them at retreats and so on, like that. And I've also done what you just suggested. I've done that for Unity World headquarters when they have their board of director meetings. I've gone in and opened them up for prayer and then left the space and that arena, especially when they come together for the week or when they used to.
Wonderful. I see great value in that. So often board meetings without that consistent compass can go, of course, into a very intellectually focused discussion debate, right? And that is a way for us to just reorientate from time to time back to spirit, to being heart-centered while doing the business of the ministry. Well, thank you for sharing. That's just going to be a wonderful idea. I'm going to develop that a little bit and take it to the board. We're currently meeting every week at the moment, so hold us in your prayers when you have some free time.
Yes, because there's a lot going on, I suppose, that you need to do that.
Yes, there is a lot going on. And of course, our board is very, very optimistic at the moment. We are looking at the challenge of this time as an opportunity to revision and reorientate our ministry, especially we consider ourselves an on-site campus of consciousness, but this is now an opportunity for us to be also an online campus of consciousness. So we're putting in a lot of time, strategic planning, identifying 8 initiatives we're trying to accomplish in 2020 and 2021.
And that's excuse me, I was going to say that's one of the blessings of the pandemic and being social distancing, not able to come together. It's made us more creative. It's made us more aware of other ways of doing things that are actually going to be in keeping with where we're heading as a world in terms of technology. So that's actually one of the things I want to talk about in my podcast coming up, of what are some of the blessings that have come out unexpectedly to change your life, to change the way you work, to change the way you serve, to change the way you worship, that kind of thing.
Talking about your podcast, so being online, and you've moved from Unity FM radio to making your podcast available on your website at touchingthestillness.org, correct? You've done that recently. Yes. Creating that audience, was it helpful using Unity FM radio as a place to begin that journey?
It was helpful. I had to start from scratch when I went out on my own. I had a huge following. I was always in the top host ranking in the top 5 or 10 hosts in terms of numbers and downloads, because my show was so different from what was on the network. and it obviously just grew over the 10 years that I was online. But I wasn't into the numbers at the time. I just like, oh, it's Tuesday, let me do my thing. So when I was told in 2008, I actually heard a voice in my head that said, it's time. I wasn't ready yet. Like, and it was our 10th anniversary. I'm not going anywhere. But the signs came, and all I needed was a billboard that says, which part of it's time to let go don't you understand? So I let it go, and I had no intention of doing it myself. I was just thinking, if I love this podcast this much and I'm being guided to let it go, then I'm assured that something wonderful is coming to fill its place. And after about a year, nothing was happening, and my soul was like, so then I decided to, everybody's doing a podcast. I can do this too. Oh my gosh, it's such a lot of work. And as I say, I'm starting from scratch because people don't know I'm back. I've not had an opportunity we didn't have a database of our listeners. So there's no way to let people know I was back. So slowly but surely, the numbers are growing again. But I'm trying again not to make it about the numbers, but about what can be of service and feeding my soul at the same time. So,
Wonderful.
yeah.
That's helpful information. Part of our consideration at Unity of Tustin and developing our online presence as we develop our online campus of consciousness is to have a podcast on our services, or at least one of them once a week. And I've reached out to Unity FM and started that conversation, and hopeful to see how it develops and where it goes.
Yes.
Let's come now to touching the stillness. And so I'd like you just to take your time and share from the heart and bless our members this evening. My questions are very simply these three things. What is the stillness? Why should we connect to it? And how do we connect with the stillness?
And you say we only have how long?
In this case, take your time. I think people would be very disappointed if we held you to a clock.
The stillness. I'm what you would call a don't tell me, show me kind of girl. So I can't wax lyrical about, the stillness and in the way that most people could. First of all, because I was never taught meditation. My brother passed away suddenly when in 1991. And I was introduced to Unity at that time, and that was the first time I'd heard a meditation. But my soul resonated with what I was hearing in this Sunday service. And I remember going back to London, because this happened in New York. I would go to visit my friend in New York to go to Unity. And after about 4 years of doing that, it got very expensive. So, I would go every time I had vacation time. I would go over to see her, but I was really going so I could go to church. And so then I found Unity in London, and I remember going in, and they had a 30-minute service, a 30-minute meditation before the service that I would attend. And after just a couple of months, the person who was facilitating it said that she was going away on vacation, and the minister was looking for someone to replace her. And I sort of catapulted out of my chair and went over to him and said, I can do that. I had never tried it. I had never done it at home. I'd never practiced meditation on my own. It was just this calling in my soul. And of course he said no, because he didn't know who I was from Adam. And then fast forward to years where I'd go to church as a congregant. He'd say, oh, Paulette, would you come up and lead the meditation, with no warning? So that's how I managed to practice extemporaneous meditation. So it's something that I found a word for. I found a word to describe what I was experiencing and what I could take people through in an experience, if that makes sense. So I didn't learn it in a book. I didn't go to some workshop and said, oh, this is stillness and this is how I teach it. It was actually, I had done a treasure map for my first CD, Touching the Stillness, and I was looking for a name for it. And I tried all sorts of things, and I brainstormed all sorts of ideas. And I was just standing there one day looking at it, and there were 3 pebbles close together. One said stillness, one said peace, and one said calm. And I was thinking, I want my meditations to be like touchstones, where you touch the stillness And that's where that came from. So that's what I'm evoking. It's this place of peace, and we get to it maybe sometimes only fleetingly for seconds, yet the journey there, the relaxation, the letting go, the creating space for healing, for releasing of fear and doubt and concern, and the place to be open to the questions, that is still a container, even though the literal stillness may be fleeting, because a lot of people think that meditation is about stopping your thoughts and just having this blank mind. And it's not. It's having tools. I just spoke about this in yesterday's podcast that went out yesterday. It's about having tools and anchors that we can use to bring our attention back when inevitably the mind and the thoughts will wander and take us down a rabbit hole. So we use that practice and it's, meditation's available in so many different forms, and that's what I'm teaching through Touching the Stillness. I would like people to experience this place of stillness, or the journey to it, the gateways to it, and not make the stillness the destination, because then we get fixated. But if you know that there are various ways to meditate, and you find one that works for you, you're likely to stick to it. And then you have all sorts of physical, psychological, and physiological benefits, spiritual benefits that come out of that. So it's a place of peace. It's a place of landing. It's a place for a breathing space, basically. But we're not trying to make anything happen. We're just going to experience it. And I've heard numerous times, and now I believe it, that my voice has this resonance that can take people at least to the doorway. And so that's what I'm engendering with Touching the Stillness, is helping people to find that place, find a gateway that will take them to that place. But it's not about the destination, it's the journey there, and being consistent with the practice for all the other blessings and benefits it will bring.
Wonderful. That is such an uplifting description of entering what I call the presence of the presence.
Right.
Yes. So, before we are now blessed, you are actually going to bless us with a guided meditation. Before we do that, in your sharings today, I see a trend. I see somebody who is very comfortable with the quest of the question. Yes. From this past Sunday, my teaching was about the power of will and the ability to say no to something, no, I won't, and the ability to say, yes, I will. Let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. And Reverend Paulette, I see a trend emerging in your sharing with us today, that you have gone through these touchstone moments in your own life where you have been placed in the divine now of the question, mm-hmm. and being asked to say no to something that no longer served you, and with great faith and courage to step into a yes moment, probably without knowing completely and fully what it is or where it would lead, but having that faith and courage to make that step forward. So I see great synergy today in your presence, your teaching, the guided meditation that you are going to bless us with, and the power of the month, which is the power of will. Mm-hmm. So we are with you now as you bless and guide us in meditation.
Thank you. Can I just say one thing? During the month of August, my podcast is bi-monthly, but during the month of August, we have the Summer Sizzling series where we answer listener questions. And so yesterday, as I said, we just did the question, what's the difference between meditation and prayer? And then next week's episode will be that very question. How do I listen to and trust my intuition? How do I recognize it? And one of the things that meditation can provide for us is enhancing our intuition, our insight, and ability to trust what comes. And so, not, as I said, not knowing anything about meditation in terms of the name of it, but my soul knowing it. And then when we were united in understanding and action, that's one of the things that has really expanded in me, is my intuition and knowing, no, this is not it anymore. Or like you just said, that door's closed, the next one's not open. But if I'm going to be available to spirit, I have to let that go and trust that the next thing will be what I need, what the world needs. And so that's executing the power of will, but listening to, not being willful, but listening to that inner voice that guides us in that direction. So I'll be happy to lead you in a meditation along those lines. So let us begin this time of meditation by acknowledging everything that's going on in us right now, everything we can feel, sense, smell, see, hear, touch, even taste. Pay attention to whatever you're feeling in your body and where in your body you are experiencing that sensation or even discomfort. It might help if you lower your eyelids, close your eyes, just to sense into that, without pushing it away, without trying to make it different. Just notice. And now notice your thoughts. What is it you think about when the mind tries to become quiet? When we intention to bring our attention to the present moment? What thoughts bubble up to the surface? Or they're always there, but we don't pay attention to their coming and going? Just notice now. And then take a deep breath in and exhale. One more time, a deep breath in. Hold the breath and then exhale. And if your mind wanders, if the thoughts distract, or the sensations or sounds around you, then you have the breath as your anchor to come back to time and again. It doesn't matter how many times, that's the practice. Or maybe it will be easier to use a word or a phrase that you can come back to when the attention is drawn away from this present moment. Or if you feel sleepy when you close your eyes, open them again and find an inanimate object that you can focus on. Or if there's a space, if there's a candle in your space, focus on the candle flame. And just be here, letting every breath relax you. Soften your shoulders. Relax your seat in the chair. Your feet making contact with the ground. Let your facial muscles soften. Your eyes as they sink more deeply into their sockets. The hollow under your cheeks as your jaw softens. The back of the head and the crown of the head soften as you breathe and relax. I'm going to invite you to focus your attention at your throat. The power center of power. Our communication center where we speak truth to power. Where it's safe for us to speak up and to speak out. And this power center, although located at the throat, also radiates and encompasses our ears. So with your attention focused at the power center of the throat, listen keenly with your ears. And now drop your attention into your heart center, that space in the center of your chest. And listen with your heart. Imagine in your mind's eye there is a cord of pure, radiant light extending from your heart up through your throat into the center of your forehead, the area of imagination. And then it divides and goes left and right, flattening against your forehead, radiating in all three power centers of insight and imagination, understanding and will. There is coherence between the heart, the imagination, the understanding, and our will. And this energy of light flowing from the heart up through the power center into the point of imagination, across the forehead, flowing into our will energy point and our understanding energy point, and then cascading down around our ears, creating a circuitous loop of luminescent light that opens all of these centers, expands the space and our capacity to love, to communicate, to imagine, to understand, to follow divine will, and to listen. And as we listen, to trust that our guidance will be so clear and unmistakable we could not possibly misunderstand. That our guidance is so clear, so clearly divine will, that it comes with an energy of joy an energy of ease, an energy of calm and centered poise. There is no irritation in the solar plexus, no discomfort. And so we choose to trust and listen as we breathe in, breathe out, and rest in the stillness of this moment. In the stillness. Allow your next breath to submerge you even more deeply into this sweet place of peace. And remember, if you become distracted by thought, sound, or sensation, to use your breath, your word or your phrase, your inanimate object, the candle flame, whatever you are using as your anchor to draw your attention back to the present, doing so with compassion and gentleness, expanding evermore, enhancing divine will, the ability to listen and follow and be determined, decisive. In attuning to, following and trusting that which we are being called to embrace or to let go. I am trusting in divine will. I let go of reticence or resistance. I am firm in my conviction. I do not falter or fear. My yes is decisive and determined. My no comes without apology or regret. I am choosing to follow the will, the understanding, the insight, and my heart. Not my will, but divine will is being done, is being established. And now we begin our journey in consciousness, taking our time, returning our awareness gently to this time and place. Aware again of the air around us and the temperature touching our skin. The sounds, the seat beneath us, the clothes upon us, the sensations flowing through us, the breath of God breathing us, that sense of expansiveness as our whole being says yes to spirit and no to that which no longer serves us. We're aware again of the breath, following its inflow and its outgoing. We bring our attention up behind the back of our eyes and take an intentionally deep breath here, breathing in, holding the breath, and then breathing out. This time take in the whole entire breath, hold it, and squeeze and clench everything from the base of your body, every muscle, every sinew, squeeze, 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 and release. One more time, a deep breath in, hold the breath, squeeze and clench tight, 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 and sigh out the breath. And then take in a deep breath. And as you exhale, flutter your eyelids open, but keep your lids lowered. And one more deep breath here. Breathe in. And as you exhale, raise your eyes. Keep your heart open and expansive. And listen for your divine guidance. And say yes to divine will. Namaste.
Reverend Paulette, thank you for the blessing of that guided meditation. I'm reminded earlier of you mentioning the feedback you get about the power of your voice in guiding meditation. I'd like to take a moment to affirm that. I think you have found your gift and you are busy sharing it with the world. Thank you for taking time. Thank you for taking time this evening to bless us at Unity of Tustin with your insight and your inspiration about meditation and touching the stillness, and also about guiding us into a moment of oneness with divine presence and power.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a joy to be with everyone this evening.
We look forward to circling back in the weeks ahead and having a conversation with you about the possibility of maybe, according to divine will, of having you visit us maybe in 2021 for a weekend retreat or something to that effect. Maybe an online facilitation or an in-person, on-site, if that is possible.
Everything is possible. Look forward to discussing that with you.
We open our hearts to that. So blessings to you. And again, we encourage all of our members of Unity of Tustin to visit you online at touchingthestillness.org and to support you and your ministry and the work that you do for Unity Worldwide Ministries and the New Thought movement as a whole. Blessings and thank you.
Thank you. Blessings to my friends at Unity of Tustin. Until next time. Bye.
Thank you, Reverend Paulette, for the blessing of that conscious conversation and guided meditation. We so look forward to talking with you again about the possibility of joining us here at Unity of Tustin later in 2020 or in 2021 as a retreat provider for our ministry and community. That brings us to our offering for this evening, a gratitude affirmation to those of you that have so generously and consistently supported our ministry with your financial donations and offerings. A reminder that you can make an offering this evening by clicking the donate button on our Facebook Live broadcast, or you can go to our webpage at unitytustin.org and click the donate page tab there for access to our safe online donation platform. Join me now as I recite the offering affirmation. I invite you to open your heart in blessing of our offering today. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all I receive. Thank you, God. I am so blessed. And now it is time for a music video blessing. This song was the one mentioned by Reverend Paulette in her conscious conversation with us this evening. The song is by Jana Stanfield, and the song title, If I Were Brave.
I knew that I could not fail. If I believed, would the wind always fill up my sails? How far would I go? What could I achieve? Trusting the hero in me. If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where true believers dare to tread and never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What if we're all meant to do what we secretly dream? What would you ask if you knew you could have anything? Like the mighty oak sleeps in the heart of a seed, are there miracles in you and me? You know there are. If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where true believers dare to tread and never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? If I refuse to listen to the voice of fear, would the voice of courage whisper in my ear? Maybe this is what I'd hear. I am brave enough to move ahead, where true believers dare to tread, never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step will I take today? I am brave. What will I do 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 today? I am
Thank you, Jana Stanfield, for the blessing and uplifting of that song. That brings us to our announcements for this evening. Just a reminder that we are now also having Sunday services open-aired in our meditation garden, socially and safely distanced, every Sunday at 11 o'clock. We invite you to consider participating and joining us for those services. This week, this Sunday, we'll be blessed with a music message service by Daniel Namod. And Daniel will also be our conscious conversation guest for next Wednesday's service. Daniel and I will be talking about the creative process of divine insight and inspiration. That brings us to the closing of our service this evening and the blessing and benediction of our prayer for protection. I invite you to join me now, open-hearted, as we recite the prayer for protection together as a blessing for one and all. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you for joining us this evening. It is always a blessing to be with you and to see you online, demonstrating our oneness in spirit, our online fellowship and community. Until we see you again, either online or in person, we hold you in our hearts, our uplifting thoughts, and our empowering prayers.